right. So, this unit is on molarity. Um, so it's we've talked about we just talked about converting moles to grams, grams to moles, atoms to moles, moles to atoms, grams to atoms, atoms to grams, all those conversions with moles. But now this is molarity, which is a little bit different. Okay? Molarity deals with concentration. So, after today, you should be able to define molarity in terms of its mathematical formula, calculate moles, liters, or molarity of a given solution, and explain how to make a solution. So, I want you to recall that concentration is a measure of the amount of solute dissolved in a given quantity of solvent. What does that mean? Well, hopefully you guys know and remember what a solute and a solvent is, and also a solution. But I'll give you a little recap. So, um, the best way that I can explain this is with coffee. Okay, so if you have a cup of coffee and it is really, really, really strong, one thing that you can say is that it's very concentrated. What does that mean? Um, what it means is that if we look at this cup of coffee, right, it has um, both a solute and a solvent. And the coffee itself is the solution. Now, the solute is the coffee grinds. The solvent is water. The solution is now the finished product, the coffee. So, if we have a very high concentration of solute, meaning coffee grinds, compared to a solvent, water, it's going to be very, very concentrated or have a very high concentration, and it's going to make the coffee very, very strong. Now, if we wanted to make the coffee less strong, what should we do? We add more solvent, right? We add more water. The more water you add, the weaker you're going to make the coffee, right? The less concentrated it will be. Um, so the same thing applies to making solutions, okay? And just like the coffee, if we are making a chemical solution, we're going to have a solute and we're going to have a solvent. Okay, the final product is a solution. And in order to measure how concentrated that solution is, we use a unit called molarity. So, in chemistry, the most important unit of concentration is molarity. Now, molarity the unit is represented by a big M, uppercase M. It's the number of moles of solute dissolved in 1 liter of solution. Okay, so what does that look like? Well, it looks like molarity equals moles of solute over liters of solution. Okay, so that's how you're going to solve these problems, is using this formula. Molarity equals moles over liters. Okay? Now, it's really important to know, especially when you are actually making solutions, that the volume in liters is the total volume after you've added your solute. So it's the total volume of the resulting solution, not just the solvent alone. So if we wanted, let's say, instead of something solid, let's say that we are adding a liquid, okay? So let's say that we are adding like liquid sugar to a cup of water. Okay? If we wanted to calculate this out to determine what the concentration is of the sugar in the finished sugar water solution, we'd have to know what the total volume of the solution is after we add the sugar. So I think this will make sense when we take a look at an example of how to make a solution. So these are the steps for making it. In this case, we're going to make a 0.5 molar solution. Okay, so you can see in the image to the right, we have a flask that we're going to be mixing and making our solution in. That line halfway up the tube of the flask is a liter line for marking off 1 liter. You can see distilled water, and then you can see like a green powder there. So the distilled water is going to be our solvent, and that powder is going to be our solute. Okay, so we add 0.5 moles of solute to a 1 liter volumetric flask half filled with distilled water. Now, you can use any vessel. It doesn't have to be a volumetric flask, but this is a very useful tool because it measures exactly 1 liter. Okay, so the next thing that's really important here is that we fill it halfway with our solvent. Now, why would we do that? Well, it goes back to what I was just saying about having your finished solution equal 1 liter. Okay, so we're going to fill it up halfway with our solvent. So we fill it up halfway with our water, and we add our solute, our 0.5 moles of our solute. All right, then we swirl the flask around, we dissolve the solute. Okay, so now it's dissolved in half a liter of water. The next thing we do is we fill the flask up to the 1 liter mark now. So now we've already dissolved our solute in. When we fill it up to the 1 liter mark, now we know that the final volume of our solution is 1 liter. Okay?